All right, you guys, can you hear me? All right, good morning. Thank you guys for being so patient. We had actually, I'm trying to get my dog over here so you can see. Yeah. You want to say hi? If you guys want to see my dog here, I just had to take him out real quick. Let me turn on my video here. Ooh, you guys can see my doggy. I have a weird background. I didn't even realize it. My hair looks a little crazy today because I just got done working out, but this is my little doggy. Say hi. Let me try to fix my camera here. Hold on. I got some weird Zoom camera. Maybe I'll just not show it, but you got to see my dog. Thanks. I think I set my background. I was playing around with my backgrounds of Zoom when we were doing our meetings, but I had to take that little guy out. I was kind of running a little late with meetings today. So thank you for being so patient. How's everybody doing today? Oh, thank you. Yeah, he's a handful for sure. Like I said, I'm good. I just got done doing some cardio workout here to get my day started and then into work meetings. So, whew, got my blood going. So how is everybody, what do you guys think of last week's projects? Did you have fun with the landscape neighborhood illustration? Good. Some of you guys struggle a little bit, but you're confused on one thing. Some of you guys struggle with how to open up the PDF file in Illustrator. Some of you struggle with that. I showed how to do this in the demo for the lecture that we had last week. So it's super easy. You just go File, Open, and you open that PDF to adjust it. What were you confused about, Stephanie? How to fill in? You mean like color? Yeah, so that was a question I actually have. Let me share my screen here. I actually had somebody else ask me that in an email, and that's a great question. So I'm going to show you really quickly how that all works. All right, sorry if I'm out of breath here. I kind of was just running around. Okay, so a lot of you guys were asking about the line segment tool and how do you fill that with a color? Well, you really can't. You're welcome. You really can't because it's not a shape. So the line segment tool, the only thing that you can do with that is fill it with a stroke color. So you can make it like red, you can make it thicker. My layers are, oops, if I selected here. You know, you could do that, but you can't fill it because watch what happens. The only way that you can fill it is if you make it a closed shape. You know, like whenever you guys were playing around with the square tool. The only reason why you're able to fill this with a color is because it's a filled shape, meaning each of these vector points are closed and a closed shape. So the only way to do that, and I'm going to show you, this is kind of something that I didn't show you last week. It's a little bit more advanced. Let's say you're playing around with this tool, this line segment tool. And you do want to add, let me get my line segment. You do want to add fill to it. The only way that you can do that, let's say if you have, like, for instance, let me do a rectangle. Let's say this is like the roof line. And I'm going to copy and paste this. And I'm going to reflect this so that it's going the same way. I'm sorry, the other way, but in the same angle. So I'm going to go to my reflect tool. And that's a little bit more advanced too. That's under your rotate tool. And it looks like a reflection. And if I double click on that and I choose,
first 10 seconds.
let's see here, horizontal. Mic is on here. I'm gonna mute you there. Okay, so if you choose horizontal and then preview, you'll see that it's reflecting the same here. So go ahead and put that next to it. So this is, say this is your roof line, okay? And you did it in 3 line segments. Now you can't fill that because it's not a closed shape. So how do you do it? Well, it takes an extra step. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to zoom in really, really tight. Good morning. I'm just showing you how to fill 2 line segments, or 3 line segments actually. So you can see, let me zoom a little bit tighter. It's always good to zoom in on your work. And just a little FYI, if you hold down the space tool, I think I zoomed a little bit too much. If you hold down the space tool on your keyboard, you can navigate very easily. If you hold down that space tool, you can grab your artboard to kind of navigate it a little bit easier. Okay, so now just deselect everything. Just click on the artboard itself so that you don't have anything selected. Get these a little bit closer here. Okay, and then take your direct selection tool, your white arrow, and you're going to select this one, the point that you want to fuse with this point. Okay, so you want to join these 2 together. So you're going to click on that vector point, and then you're going to hold the shift key down before you click on this one, on the one to the right. Okay, so you have these 2 vector points chosen. And then what you're going to do is you're going to, and I think it's under here, I can't remember, I've done this. Oh, okay, you go under object. I haven't done this for a while, so here we go. You go under object, you go to path, and you want to choose join. And that's going to join these 2. Now you can always adjust this. Say if you don't want that weird step in there, see how there's like a flat, take your direct selection tool and you can pull these closer together so that they're on top of each other and makes a point. Okay, now we're not done yet. Let me zoom out. We still can't fill this because we have this as a disconnect and this is a disconnect. These are, I created these as 3 separate line segments. So I'm going to zoom in on the one. I'm going to pull this a little closer. Let's pull like right here. Zoom in on here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the direct selection tool and we're going to select this vector point. We're going to hold the shift key down and select this one, object, path, join. And again, click off of it. If you want to pull these together, just click on an individual vector and pull it up into the other one. Okay, not done yet. One more. Same thing though. So it's pretty easy. You just have to know how to, that option you guys did not know it was available. So I'm going to make this a little shorter. So bring that in. Shift, select again, just like I showed you, object, path, join, and click off. And I'm going to pull this up into here. Looks good. All right, now it's a closed shape. So if I were to select this and then I were to swap the fill with the stroke, you're able to fill it. So that's how you would do that. Yep. Now there's an easier way to do this. The line segment tool is, you're welcome, is a little tedious at times. There is the pen tool. If you ever get a chance to practice around with the pen tool, it's great. It does the same thing, only it acts a little differently how you put your points down. But you could do it very easily. Hold down the shift key for a flat. Look how easy I made that shape with just the pen tool. Now you guys weren't tasked with doing the pen tool. It's a little bit more, yes. It's a little tricky, but if you get the hang of it, it definitely is easier. So, all right. So hopefully, hopefully that sheds some light on some issues I've had other people email me about in regards to the line segment tool. All right, so welcome to week 3 live lecture. It is May 12th, 2020. It's crazy, it's a Tuesday. And let's go ahead and get started here. Does anybody else have any questions with, let me go to my preview mode here. Any questions about anything that we've learned thus far besides the line segment tool? Sorry guys, my presentation wasn't quite ready yet. All right. Well, hopefully everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day. You guys are ready to push forward here. I see a lot of you guys already involved in the discussions, which is great. So that kind of is, it's very, very good for me to see you guys pushing to get that done early. All right, so week 3, learning objectives. Again, these are just things that we need to go over because this is what you're going to be walking away from this week learning. So you're going to utilize the basic navigational functionality of layers within industry standard software. We're going to be working in Photoshop this week, so pretty cool. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Sorry, I just saw your response there. Utilize the basic functionality of 2 navigational move and selection tools within industry standard software. You're going to discuss the importance of time management skills within professional design practice. And then also discuss the time management benefits of building, a professional network, and identify your networking opportunities online or face-to-face targeted towards design students. All right, so what we're going to be doing today, this is our agenda here. Well, we just went over the learning objectives, so we're going to go into your discussions. You have 2 again this week. We're going to talk about building your network. That kind of has to do with your discussions, managing your time. And then we're going to go over your assignment 3 and your assessment 3. But I think I'm going to shift things around a little bit right now because I want to focus more on your assignment and your assessment and make sure we have enough time for that. So what I'm going to do, instead of starting off with the discussion overview, I'm going to start off with your assignment overview. Does that sound good? I think the more time we put into that, the better. I think the discussions you guys get the gist of. Yes, we will go over that. We'll just kind of shift things around so that'll be last. Okay, awesome. So go ahead and close your eyes. This is all your discussion stuff. Woo, let's fast forward here. Okay, so this is the fun stuff. So you guys are going to be doing a really cool composite for your assignment 3. Which one doesn't belong here? What do you guys think? The deer? Maybe the little, what is that? Prairie dog? The thing on the left, the prairie dog. Is that a prairie dog? And what is that other thing on the, oh, what do they call that? The little one. What's the one thing on the right? I can't remember the name of it. It's an Australian mammal, I believe. Muskrat. Something like that. We'll call it a muskrat. I think it's a weird name, but I can't remember. All right, so this is basically, you're not going to be doing this, but you're going to be compositing an image together. So you're going to be pulling in different elements together in one photograph to make it look like a real photograph to a point. Okay, so that's what a photo composite is. It's kind of, you know, you can make it look really realistic, or you can make it look obviously, you know, composited too. This one's a little bit more on the obvious side, but you can see that it is composed of different. I believe the bigger one is the one that's the original of the image, but then the deer and the muskrat were pulled in. Okay, so basically what you guys are going to be doing is in Photoshop, we are going to be looking at your selection tools. We're also going to be looking at layers, and we're going to be compositing images based on what's in the assignment instructions. So you're going to make a document that is 7 inches wide and 5 inches tall at 72 dots per inch. So that's a lower res artwork. You're going to choose an animal based in the instructions, and we'll take a look at that. And you're going to place them by going to File, Place Embedded to place your selected images into the document. You're going to place, order, resize them appropriately. Then you're going to choose a hat, okay? So you're going to choose an animal, one animal, then you're going to choose a hat. And you're going to use the appropriate selection masking techniques to create an effective composite. And then the next step is you're going to use the appropriate selection and masking techniques to create an effective composite. Use the necessary adjustment layers and blending modes. I know you guys probably maybe have messed around with that, but some of you may not know what that is yet. We're going to take a look at that to make the subjects appear cohesive with the background. And then you're going to save it out as a PSD file, which is a Photoshop working file. Okay, pretty exciting. So let's go ahead. Let me open up Canvas and let's see, go to your assignment here. Some of you guys may have read this, but basically we're going to be learning and I'm not going to read through all of this, but please do read through all of this. We're going to be showing you the marquee tool, the quick selection tool, and the move tool, amongst other tools in Photoshop for this project. So again, this is the prompt here. Composite image is an image that blends together several different images into a cohesive whole. In this assignment, you will be using the selection and move tools in Photoshop to make a composite image. You will be provided with a number of different animals, hats, backgrounds, and props to choose from. Pick one animal, one hat, and one prop. Composite these three elements together using the appropriate selection, masking, and move tools. All right, so go ahead and choose an animal from the image provided. So download all of these, put them on your desktop or wherever your document folder. Choose a hat. You can download all of them or look at them. I would download all of them. That way you can kind of choose and pick through. And then your props. So let me go ahead and open that and show you what you have available here. Wait 1 second, I threw them all in a folder here. There we go. Okay, share my screen. All right, so you can see I downloaded all of them and put them in my assignment 3 folder. Let me try and make this a little bit bigger here. So they're kind of out of order in terms of, you know, animal and prop, but you have hats, props, animals, props, animals, prop, hat, prop, animal, and hat. You can organize this a little bit better than I did, but I just kind of threw them all together in one folder. So that's what you have to choose from. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose the animal first to work with. You're going to place a hat or, you know, on the animal or around the animal, and then a prop can be used maybe for the background. Okay, any questions about that so far? So I'm going to just do one so you guys can see how I would walk through this, and then also I'm going to explain the tools needed and how they work. Okay, so let me open up Photoshop here. And I'm going to share my desktop so you can see all of my menu bars here. All right, so when you're in Photoshop, can you see my screen here? Make this big. Okay, you're going to go File, New. And this is where you have to pay attention. Some of you guys in Illustrator weren't quite paying attention to the unit measurements. So if I made mention to that, and I know who you are because every time I see a tiny little picture in the submissions, I know that you did not do your units correctly. So I did give you instructions on how to do that. So pay attention to the units here. I have it on pixels. We want to set it to inches. So go ahead and set that to inches. And I believe we went 7 inches by 5, correct? Yeah, wide by 5. So 7, type in 7 for the width, 5 for the height, and make sure your resolution, this is the dots per inch, is set, or pixels per inch really, because we're seeing it on a screen, set to 72, and you're gonna hit create. It's gonna look like this. You can zoom in on it a little bit more here. I'm zoomed in about 300%, so you can see it down here. Okay, just like Illustrator, Photoshop has its own little toolbar here. And anytime you click on any type of tool, again, the presets switch above as well. You also have a window drop-down menu, so if you don't see anything panel-wise that's already kind of on your screen, your navigation screen already, you can choose here. So let's say if you're looking for, let's see, adjustments, you can choose adjustments and they can be here. Now, just kind of a heads up, and I know I said this about Illustrator, but Photoshop especially is a huge, monstrous program, okay? So don't let it intimidate you. As a designer, from my experience and what I've used it for, I do use it very often, but I don't use every single option available. I don't use every single tool available. So, you know, the basics are really what you need to stick to right now and know very well to use. That way you can use it for your own, you know, benefit as a designer. Now, photographers, for instance, may use different tools than you would as a designer. Animators may use it differently as well. So there's a lot of things that you might not use going forward as a designer, just to give you an idea of how big this program is. I could probably take 5 years of Photoshop classes and still not learn everything that there is to know. And I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just telling you, it's a big program. Don't let it intimidate you. Just understand the fundamentals. Again, this basically works just like an Illustrator, your functionality of your window panes. You can, you know, it's up to you, your preferences on how you see your panels. You can set your panels up just like you did in Illustrator. Try to get this pulled down here. My thing's kind of in the way. Hold on. Okay, there we go. You can hide, you know, panels. You can, it just kind of works the same way in terms of all of your preferences and what you see on your artboard or on your panels. Layers, again, you have layers are very important, so make sure you're viewing that. Go up to window layers if you don't see that. This is basically a way for you to work with your composite in a way that's a little bit more, you know, manageable instead of working on one layer. Think of a layer as if you're piling papers on top of each other. You know, the paper that's going to be on the top is the one that you're going to see first. So we're going to be doing in the assessment kind of an understanding more about layers. So we'll go into a little bit in detail there too as well. You'll be practicing a little bit more with layers. But this is your artboard. Again, this is your toolbar. This is your move tool. So you're going to move your images around with that. It looks like a little arrow that's like a cross arrow. You have selection tools. You have the marquee, rectangle marquee tool, and that's basically what it is. It can do, if you click and drag it over top of the artboard, it's going to create this selection, which we used to call this marching ants because it looks like a bunch of marching ants when you select it. And basically, this is just one way of many, and you can make different, you know, squares, but it's always going to be a sharp square of some sort or rectangle. It's a way to make a selection. So let me show you really quickly. I'm going to go File, Place, and this is how you're going to place your images. So File, Image Embedded, and I'm going to place one of my images in here. File, Place, Embedded. Okay. Now it may not place all the way across my canvas, so I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and pull out my bounding box, and I'm going to hit the Move tool when I'm ready to place it, or hit Tab to place it. So that's how you would place an image in there. File, Place, Embed. Now again, just for purposes of showing you what the marquee tool does, I'm just going to do a selection just over top of this image here. And I'm going to show you how this works. So if I hit the Move tool after selecting it, and I go up to Layer, and I go to, and I'm going to show you this because I think the adjustment layers are really the smart way to go. Adjustment layers are a way to add a layer on top of an original layer so that you're not taking away from the original layer. So you can always adjust it and delete it without messing up what's underneath it, the original layer. Okay, so I'm going to show you real quick. You're going to go Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and you're going to go to Hue and Saturation. Now when I do that, pay attention to my layer panel over to the right there. Click OK. So you can see that this is my new layer, adjustment layer. This is my, and again, whatever's on top is going to show. This is my little suitcase. I can actually double click over the name. I'm going to name it suitcase. This is how you can rename your layers. I'm going to double click on my background to unlock it. And then this is my adjustment layer. Now watch what happens when I click on my adjustment layer. My property box opens up. So remember how I made that selection? You can't see it now, but you'll be able to see it when I move this over. See how I can adjust now if I move the hue over to the left or to the right. I'm just adjusting whatever that selection that I made. And you can see in my in my adjustment layer, my hue saturation, this is called a mask on the right-hand side. You can see that the white is being adjusted and the black is not. If I actually click on the little eyeball, it's not going to show any type of selection because I'm hiding that layer adjustment on top. So that's kind of nice because you can always double click on your layer adjustment. Let's see. Of course I say that and it's not doing it. And it's because it's hidden behind here. If you double click right on top of that, you can always go back and adjust this. See how cool that is? You can even adjust the saturation, lower or higher, the lightness, darker. Yeah, so that's that square, that marquee that I made. Now, if you're unhappy with this, this is what's nice about, instead of doing it right on top of the actual image, making an adjustment layer, you can just go ahead and trash it if you didn't like it. So anywhere that you make that little square, and then you go ahead and go layer, adjustment layer, and let's do hue saturation again, click OK. You can adjust the color right on top. Wherever that selection is, you can always hide it if you don't want to do anything. You can double click on it to adjust it again. So that's kind of the pro of an adjustment layer. You can always kind of edit it. You can hide it. You can trash it. Okay. All right. So that is one of your selection tools. You also underneath there have an elliptical marquee tool. It's the same thing. You're just dealing with an ellipse. Okay. Now you could do the same thing over top of this. The only thing is if you wanted to adjust, say adjust the hue and saturation over top of this particular, let's see, I can show you this, just kind of how I did that. Let's say you didn't want to do adjustment layer, but you wanted to do it right over top of the image itself, which adjustment layer is the smart way to go. But I just want to show you this option too. See how there's like a little, box over top of that. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's what is showing you as a smart object. So when I just highlight over that, it says smart object thumbnail. So what a smart object is it's a way to preserve the original image without taking any type of pixel information out or changing it. Now you can actually make this a non-smart object thumbnail, and that's the only way you can make changes to the actual photo itself. So let me show you that real quick. With that smart object selected, what you would do is you go up to layer and you would choose rasterize smart object. So you would just rasterize it, and that little square next to it will disappear, and now it's no longer a smart object. So if I were to go ahead and do another selection on top of this, and then I went to, let's say, I don't want to put an adjustment layer on this. I just want to go to image. Okay, so if I just wanted to do something without an adjustment layer, if I were to go up to image adjustments and then say that hue, well, that hue and saturation, I don't know if that's in here. Oh, right here. You could do the same thing. The only difference is once you okay this, you can't go back. You can't edit. You can't edit it. Oh, let's click OK so you guys can see. Maybe. I'm stuck. There we go. You can't edit this. You can't delete it. It's over top of that original image. You can't change it, okay? So that's kind of the advantage of a smart object and using hue saturation is you can always take away that if you want to or adjust it. So that's important to show you. Okay, I'm going to delete this real quick. So you have your ellipse tool, you have a single row marquee tool, which is what it is. It's just a little single row marquee. You have single column marquee, same thing, just vertical. So those are your selection tools. And again, your move tool is just you can move your objects around. Okay. Then you have your lasso tools. These are kind of one of my favorite. I have, there's the regular lasso tool. Think of like you're a cowboy and you want to select, here, let me deselect my thing here. The regular lasso tool is a free form. I always think of it like a pencil. And what this does is allows you to free form by clicking right wherever you want to kind of lasso in. And I'm clicking and holding down that click as I draw over, and I'm doing this very free form, like over my suitcase. And you can see I'm kind of making like a mess. My line is very free form. And I'm not lifting my selection yet until I get to the very end, and then I let go. So you can see it's kind of like a very freehand type way to select. If I were to flip my, let me show you this real quick. Let me go up to, let me add an adjustment layer again. Hue saturation, you guys can see this. You can actually change the color of the suitcase this way, pretty cool. Again, different things that you could do with this, okay? So that's another selection tool, although it's a little messier because it's a freeform selection tool. How you can adjust this so that it's a little tighter. I'm gonna show you that in a second here. Okay, let's get back here. See how it's like, if I zoom in here, you can see my marching ants are quite aligning correctly there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, okay, need to move something here. Redo, select, redo. There we go. Is I'm going to, let's see if I can actually do this on a, no, I can't. I have to actually rasterize. Let me rasterize this real quick. My smart object. Oops. Okay. I'm going to throw a mask onto this. So the mask is at the very bottom, or you can click on the upper right-hand corner here, and you can add a mask. Let me show you how I just did that undo. So I'm selecting my suitcase, and I can go to create. Where's my mask here? I don't want a clipping. Oh yeah, clipping mask is different than mask. So I don't know, can you choose a mask here? I guess you can't. I thought you could. Okay, so at the very bottom, this is where you'll find your add layer mask. I guess you can't do the drop down. It's a different, it's a clipping mask, not a layer mask. Okay, so what a mask does is it allows you to edit the object so that the white is basically, white reveals and black is what is hidden. All right, and I know that's a little hard to understand, so I'm going to show you here real quick. So I just threw a mask on there, and because my selection, which you saw was a little off, I can actually take my paintbrush tool, and as long as I have my white, which is white reveal, I can paint the edges of, you know, just a little bit of the selection that I want added in there. So you can actually add in your points that maybe you wanted to add in with your marquee that you, or your selection tool that you couldn't before. So you can paint that in there, which is kind of nice. And you can make your brush size a little smaller by using the little, either you go up here, choose your brush size up here, or there's a shortcut key right next to your letter P are these little brackets. And the right bracket gets your brush size bigger, left bracket gets it smaller. So you can add in. Now, as long as you have white in the foreground, you can select the image to show more. Now, what if you went a little bit beyond that by accident? Like for instance, let's say you accidentally selected this part. Well, if you flip your fill so that the black is showing first, that's how you can deselect your pixels that you don't want. So you can actually alter this the way that you want. And your selection is showing here. See, right here is my edge. So I can actually delete that by just kind of painting over it, making that edge a little bit more clean. And this is something that you'll just kind of play around with and see how it works. This is one way to do a selection. Okay, let me zoom out here. So that's the layer mask. So if I were to, and let me place in, and you can see this a little bit easier. I'm going to place in this horse image just for the background purposes. So I just went File, Place Embedded, and say I drag this below this mask. Whatever is masked out, which is what I did in white, will show. So let me show you real quick. Let me take that, and you have to select your mask, by the way. It has to show brackets around your mask before you can do anything. Take your paintbrush tool. I'm going to do it so it's bigger so you can see, oops, a little bit more. Switch these to black here. And you can actually either take away part of that image, or, oops, you can show the image, which I think, because my image is, see how it kind of takes away this image. Let me redo this here real quick. Nope, I got this wrong here. Okay, let me adjust this a little bit. Sometimes you need a smaller brush to kind of tighten your selection there. So you can kind of do some really cool things with this. You can kind of adjust this in your actual landscape too. So that's kind of how masks work. It has to, whatever image that you want masked through has to be on the top and the other layer below that to adjust it. And then you could take your move tool and make it bigger or smaller and kind of do extra stuff too. Any questions about that? You can kind of erase extra stuff here too. Okay, let's start over, and I'm going to get started with the demo. I just wanted to show you how that works. And let me get started with how I would do this. And then I'm going to show you the different selection tools as well, because I didn't show you some other ones. So I'm going to go File, Place. I'm going to place this again. This little suitcase. You guys pick whichever one that you want to do. File, Place, Embed. So that's the lasso tool. The polygonal lasso tool is the same thing, only it's going to do like really hard lines selections. And the magnetic lasso tool is one of my favorites, because what it does is it actually magnetically, if you click one time on a pixel range and you just follow your cursor, you don't even have to click. I'm clicking to make these dots. It's going to follow the line, and the more contrasted your image is, it's going to follow that line, and I just screwed that up again. It's going to follow that line. Let me click, let me hit delete. If it's not following correctly, you could hit delete so that it follows the path correctly. But what's nice about this, it kind of sticks to it. So, it's not as free form. as long as you have enough contrast, it's going to follow the form of the object that you're trying to cut out. It does a little bit of a better job, I guess. And anytime you click, it's going to put those vector points down so that it follows the form a little bit tighter. And then you want to end it by clicking on the very last one. Okay, so that makes your selection so that you're able to throw a mask on that if you want. And, you know, apply it to whatever. You can do, you know, again, another layer mask on this as well. Let's do a layer, adjustment layer. Let's do color balance this time. And color balance is kind of neat because you can adjust parts of the image. So maybe if the reds you want to be more blue, you want to pull more green or more magenta, you can kind of play around with that a little bit more. It's kind of cool. Okay, so that is the magnetic lasso tool. So those are the 3 selection tools in this section. Then you have your magic wand tools. So you have your magic wand tool, which is, it's actually pretty magical. All you have to do is click on your background in this instance where it's all white. And based on the tolerance, the lower the tolerance, the more pixels that you're clicking on is sampling, it's gonna get a little bit more pickier about. The higher the tolerance, the less pickier it's gonna be, okay? So let's say I change this to 5. Let me deselect this. Now I take this is a tolerance level here, and I sample this point area. It's gonna be a little pickier. It's gonna say, okay, this is a brighter pixel than down here. So the tolerance is a little bit more pickier about which pixels it's going to select. If you still want your tolerance pretty low and say you want to select this part too, you just hold the shift key down with that same tool and you just click in these areas to select. Or if you don't want to mess with that because you think, okay, I don't want to miss a pixel, and this is pretty white, you can just make this a little higher. 30s is usually typical. And it'll select the background, and then you can throw like a mask on that, or do an adjustment layer, whatever you want to do. So that is the magic wand tool. Quick selection tool is basically like the magic wand tool, only it allows you to click and drag over, kind of like painting, and it quickly selects, say, an object or a background. Same thing, it's just another way of doing it. And that's kind of fun to play with. Just like we did with the background, that's kind of, you can select your object as well. Let me do the same thing with just the background. I'm just painting the background. So that you can, you know, you can throw a mask. I have this flipped, hold on. Let me place a background image in here. So I'm masking out these areas. What you want is you want the area that you want to show through to be black, okay? So for instance, this one, I probably would switch it. So I would do like, let me select this. Actually, let me select this part. Let me put a layer mask on this. And I'm gonna switch this. Hold on, before I do that, let me switch this. So I'm switching my foreground and my background. Oops. Ah! Inverse. Okay. And then shows my background. So what you want the black to be, so the white is what shows through, is your selection, and the black is what masks out. Okay. So you're gonna pay attention to your fill and your strokes for that. Okay, so let me hide this and let me delete this. And actually, let me go back. I'm gonna step back so that I have my original. Give me 1 second here. So I showed you all the selection tools. Do you guys have any questions about that selection tool? Object selection tool is basically the same thing. You're just selecting, you know, your object. And you can hold down the shift key to select more of that object. Okay. What else? Let's see. You also have, okay, so I'm going to start out with this image here. And I'm going to go file place because I have to do an animal, right? So I'm going to place an animal in here. Let me see. Which one am I going to do? I'm going to do, I think, the pig. So go file, place embed, place your animal in there. Go ahead and click the move tool or tab to place it in. So you're going to see it up here. And I'm going to rename this pig. I'm going to rename this suitcase so I know. And you just double click or click 1 time over the name, not the actual icon, the name to rename it. Okay, so I have suitcase pig. I have pig is above that, so you can see my move tool. I can move it around here. If you want to lock certain, certain ones, you could go ahead and click on this little lock, and that way you can't touch it. You're only touching the layer that you're selecting. Completely up to you. All right, so what I want to do is I want to pretty much just select this pig. I want to take out the background. So it's completely up to you what type of tools. You can use your lasso tool, your magnetic one. You can use your quick selection tool. You can use your magic wand tool. I'm going to use my magnetic lasso tool just because I really like that one. I think it's a little easier to work with. And again, just click anywhere that you want your line to start. Click as close as you can. And we can always adjust this as we go forward. And I'm just kind of letting it choose the path. If it goes kind of in a weird direction, all you have to do is hit delete on your keyboard. And it'll, like for instance, that right there, if I hit delete, it'll delete that anchor point that that was just laid down. So I'm going to get as best selection that I can, the closest that I can. I'm zooming in, I know it's a little hard. Don't worry about the bottom. We're going to be getting rid of that anyway in this case. Some details might not be as, you might not need to really worry about it too much depending on how you're going to place your image. So I'm going to end this with my selection. So you can see here, my pig is selected. So what I want to do is I'm going to get rid of this background. So I'm going to go up to select inverse. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this background. Oh, I have to first, let me rasterize it. So I have to go up to layer. Remember, it's a smart object. I'm going to go layer, rasterize, smart object. And then I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. And that just deletes everything in the background with just having my selection. That's another way you can do it. Now I'm going to resize this. So it's a little bit too big. I'm going to go up to edit, transform, scale. You can resize, you can do whatever you want, depending on the picture. Have fun with it. Oh, I got a selection here I need to get rid of here. Just take my selection tool, hit delete, and get rid of it. That was my rectangle selection tool. Just have fun with it. And I'm going to put him in here so that maybe I'm going to take out the bottom part of his leg here. I'm going to take the marquee tool and I'm going to select the part that I don't want showing and hit delete. Now I want to make him look a little bit more like he's blending into his surroundings here. So there's also some blending tools up here. If you select your animal, you can play around with these fun little blending options. The only thing I would say is if you were to use those blending options, I would make a copy first. Go ahead and drag down a copy. Oops, not a group. Or click over here and say duplicate layer. Make a pig copy. And I would select the top copy and kind of play around with these options first so that you have 2 layers to play around with. So let's say you wanted to do like a lighter, you wanted to lighten it up a little bit. You know, some of these are, you know, it depends on what you're doing, you know, your overall look. Let me do darker. And let's say you don't want it to be 100%. You can choose the opacity to dial that down. I actually didn't really do too much here. Let's do screen. But you can blend this so it's a little bit, you know, fits a little bit better with your surroundings. But I'm using a copy because if I didn't have a copy of it, it's going to blend it too much in there. So that's kind of why I did a copy. And I'm just using that opacity to dial down the lightness. So you can kind of play around with the different blending modes. So I think I'm going to dial down the crazy whiteness here. So that's something that you can do. I'm going to delete this so that we can go back to the original one. Another thing is remember the layer adjustment. So like say, let me try to get rid of this like green tint here. I'm going to go up to layer, new layer adjustment, and I'm going to go to color balance this time. And this is how I can kind of play around with the color balance in the picture itself. Click OK. Now, the only thing that you need to worry about when you do a layer adjustment and it's above all of your other layers, it's going to affect every single layer underneath it, like the suitcase color. It's going to affect whatever you have underneath here. We just want it to affect the pig, not the suitcase, right? So we have to put a clipping mask on in order to do that so that it just adjusts the pig, the overall color of the pig and not the suitcase. So I'll show you real quickly how that works without doing a clipping mask. So if I weren't to do a clipping mask, watch what it does to the suitcase and the pig. See how it makes everything yellow? We don't want that. We just want it to affect the pig. Okay, so with that being said, let's put a clipping mask on here. How you would do that, if you hold down your option key on your keyboard, you can see the little, I'm not even doing anything yet, the little, I don't know if you can see that little down arrow and a little box appears. You're going to go right in between your layer of your adjustment layer and your pig layer, right in between this like middle line right here. You're going to hold the option key and you're going to click right on that middle line. And what that's going to do is going to have like a little drop down arrow right here. That's a clipping mask. I think you can also go up here and do create clipping mask. Yes. So that can work too. Okay. So you don't have to do the option. Now, let's say you want to take some green out. You can just, you know, kind of pull out certain colors and add certain colors in there. So now these are just affecting the midtones. That means any type of like neutral colors in your image. Right now, my shadows, if I click on that, I'm going to choose shadows, is really kind of where that green is. So I want to kind of go away from the green. So I'm taking out the green and adding in other colors. Okay, and I go to my highlights, same thing. You want to pay attention to what's going on with that. We don't want it to be too green. We don't want it to be too red. We kind of want it to be kind of neutral there. Now, sometimes it's really hard to get the perfect amount of color, especially with that green. So do your best. And then I'm going to do another adjustment layer. So you can do multiple adjustment layers. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go up to new adjustment layer and I'm going to go to hue saturation. I'm going to make this a clipping mask, create clipping mask again, because we just want the pig to be adjusted. And I'm just going to dial down the saturation. And what that's going to do is that's going to make it look a little bit more realistic too. It's going to take out some of that green. So watch when I hide this hue saturation and then my other layer. Look how much that changed. Pretty cool, huh? So you could do multiple layer adjustments on here. Any questions about that? Isn't that cool? Now that pig still needs a little work. So we're gonna do a zoom in. We're gonna select the pig layer and we're gonna zoom in on these problem areas here. It might look a little pixelated, that's okay. And then I'm gonna take the eraser tool. Looks like it's E on your keyboard if you can't find it. Looks like a little eraser. And again, to make your brushes smaller, you can adjust it up here or right next to your, or in your indents. And I'm just gonna go ahead and brush those pixels that I don't really need. You have to do this very carefully. Command Z is often used here. You can either do this or you can make a selection to delete your areas that you want to get rid of, but I'm kind of adjusting my paintbrush. Now I make it look pretty easy because I've done this for all my, for 20 years. So it might take a little bit more time to do it on your end. Just kind of be patient with it. If you need to undo, 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 Command Z, just be patient. It's, oops, like I just did that. It's kind of messed up. Again, spacebar will help you navigate your area if you're zoomed in really tightly. I'm just kind of taking that edge off so it looks a little bit more realistic in here. My selection wasn't quite spot on since I did it very quickly. So I'm just kind of making it look more realistic. You see those darker edges there. I'm gonna eliminate. Okay. There's a lot more that you can do with this, but keep it simple. There you go. Keep it simple. All right, pretty cool. All right, so now I'm gonna do my next prop, which is a hat, right? So I'm gonna go and choose, I'm gonna choose this little top hat. I think it's kind of cool. This little top hat, I'm gonna place it in. Now again, you can go ahead and rasterize this. I think this is like the easiest way to do it. Rasterize Smart Object first. Take maybe your magic wand tool this time, select the white part and hit delete. Deselect by clicking on your artboard with your move tool, and you have your hat. Go up to edit if you need to make it smaller, transform scale. And the only problem with this is you're gonna watch, because for some reason they used to have it, oh, there we go. Don't hold the shift key down because then it'll proportionally scale down. I'm gonna put this right on his head. And I'm going to go back up to edit, transform, rotate just a little bit, and then hit place. And then again, you can play around with, let me double click on here and put hat. You can play around with your blending options. You can make it multiply, kind of makes it look like it's in the picture a little bit better. And you can make adjustments on this if you need to. Again, say a layer adjustment. Say if you want to take out some color, you want to make it look more saturated. Just make sure there's a clipping mask on there, because it is kind of standing out. You want to make it look like it's part of it. It looks like it's more red now. Okay, let's do this. Let's move my, oh, I can't do that. Let's leave that underneath there. Where's my layer adjustment? There we go. So you can kind of play with it. I'm gonna make it look a little like it fits in here better. Oh, you know what? It's my blending mode. I think it's giving me, yeah. So play around with your blending mode. Sometimes it's good to use them. Sometimes it's not, depending on your picture. It was kind of changing things for me. If I go real saturated, it's gonna do that. Okay. All right. So this would be, what happened to my pig here? I feel like it got like, let's move him up here. Oops. The clipping masks, I think, are getting a little weird. Yeah, see. Let me move my, these are not applying to my thing anymore because my pig layer is underneath. Hold on one second. Let me release my clip. For some reason, this become a clipping mask here. Heck. Undo, 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 undo. There we go. Done. Did my pig change in color? I feel like he did. Oh no, maybe not. I was thinking he did. I guess it's more green than I thought. All right. I guess I'll just have to fix that. All right, so play around with it. See what you can do with the different different props. Have fun with it. I think this is going to be a really fun assignment. But if you're having issues with something, don't feel like you're don't hesitate to ask. Have any questions? Let's see if I could do. There we go. You do a little bit more red on this guy. Trying to get rid of that green cast. Make him look a little bit more realistic. Now I just put that straight on the pig. I don't even think I did a layer mask. So let me do a layer mask. I thought I did. Color balance is kind of a cool thing. All right, there we go. Let me just adjust this a little bit more so it looks less green. There we go. Looks a little bit better. There's a little bit of a cast. There's other tools in here that you can kind of play around with, which are a little bit more advanced. So I don't want to get too involved in it, but like the burn tool and the dodge tool, if you guys ever did like a real dark room where you actually develop film, have any of you guys done that before? Okay. Well, these are kind of emulations of the burn and dodge tool. Okay. See, I'm dating myself. You would actually do this in the dark room. You'd actually burn more light into your image that you're projecting on the film, or you would dodge it to get it more bright or lighter. These are a little bit more advanced. You guys don't necessarily have to worry about that, but trying to think if there's any other tools in here. Spot healing brush tool. That's all stuff that you'll learn about. But the selection tools is what you guys have to really focus on for this project. And when you're done and everything looks good, all you have to do is save this as a PSD file. So DGD101 assignment for 3, sorry, your name. And I'm going to save this to my desktop. You guys save it to your documents. PSD file is Photoshop file. Just leave it as Photoshop. Click save. That way I can open up and see your layers. If you don't save it as a Photoshop file, say it's a PDF file, it won't show you layers. I can't open it up in Photoshop. Any questions about that? So right here, it kind of tells you the submission file, PSD file. Yeah, so have fun with it. All right. Yeah, you can, I don't really have a background on mine. You could do like a grassy background. but, and, you know, kind of have fun with it. And, you know, play around and experiment. Don't just do one, kind of play around and see what you can come up with. Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next, which is your assessment. And I think you're going to have fun with this too. This is just playing around with your Photoshop layers. So read through your assessment details here. It's just going to give you basically a background about what Photoshop layers is, you know, how you work with them. You have your content adjustment layers. I was just showing you adjustment layers and what they're all about. Viewing layer visibility, just like I showed you with the little eyeball, you can lock them. You can actually reorder your layers. I was showing you that too. Creating new content layers, and talks about creating new adjustment layers. You can delete a layer too. And I'll show you that in a second. All right, so prompt. In this assessment, you'll be working with the layers panel in Photoshop, just like you were with assignment 3. You will not create your own file yet, but you will practice navigating the layers panel in a pre-made document. This will ensure that you have a good foundation in working with layers so that when you begin to create your own documents, you will be able to easily navigate through them. So go ahead and download this folder onto your computer. Within it, you'll find 5 different social media graphics. You're going to choose 2 of the 5 and perform the following actions. So choose 2 of the 5 in that folder, and you're going to do one of the adjustments for file 1, whichever one you choose to. You're going to do those adjustments too, and then the second one that you decide to choose, you're going to do adjustments, these instructions for those. Okay? So let's go ahead and open up. This is pretty easy. I think this one will go quicker than the first one. So just kind of an FYI. Let's see, assessment here. All right. So when I download that folder, this is what you'll see. Here's the folder once it unzips, and you're going to have option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever 2 out of the 5 that you want to do. I'm going to choose 1, and I'm just going to double click on that. When I double click on that, it's going to open it up in Photoshop. Or you can go into Photoshop and go File Open and open that same way. So this is the first one. I'm going to do the first part of actions 2. Let me share my whole desktop so you can see me going back and forth. Okay. All right, so this first file, I'm going to open the file. I'm going to save the file as DGD101 Assessment 3, first and last name. So let me go ahead and do that. DGD. What was it? No, I took it back. Assessment 3, file 1. File 1. Okay, we're going to leave it as a Photoshop file because that's a working file. And I'm going to put this one on my desktop. Save. All right. Apply a hue and saturation adjustment to layer 8 only. Lower the saturation to -25. Note, you will have to use a clipping mask so you don't impact other layers. Okay, so apply hue and saturation adjustment to layer 8 only. So layer 8 is this layer. And you're going to do just like what I showed you. Go up to layer, new layer adjustment, and we want to choose hue and saturation. Click OK. And it's telling you to do a -25, I believe, in the saturation. Let me see if that's right. -25, yeah. So see where it says saturation here? You're going to put negative, which is a little negative sign, 25. Or you can just scroll, pull this over to -25. Sometimes it's just easier just to type it. It goes right to it. Any questions about that? So you can see the adjustment layer. Now, what do I need to do next? Can anybody chime in before I do anything else? Good, create a clipping mask, right? Because right now, look, it's affecting the whole entire thing. We just want it to affect this layer, which is just the photo layer. So how do I do that? Can anybody tell me how I create a clipping mask to this? See if you guys are paying attention. Either, what's the button you can choose? Option, right? Option, click in between these two. Or click on the upper right hand corner, create clipping mask. So it's just affecting. See how that photo gets a little less saturated? That's the only thing it's affecting. So that's how you do a clipping mask. Good. Okay. Next, number 4, you're going to move layer 5 so it is on top of layer 1. So go to 5, select it here, make sure it's highlighted. And you're going to move this and you're going to just direct click and drag it up and drop it right on top of layer 1. So that's it's kind of going over top this if you're doing this particular design. Okay, so that was that. Move, number 5, move layer 1 from the left side of the image to the right side. And they're talking about move layer 1 from the left side of the image to the right side. They're talking about the element in there. So go ahead and take your move tool and move it to the right side, anywhere, and just plop it right there. Whatever that layer has on it, move it to the right side. Number 6, turn the visibility off on layer 6. Does anybody know how to do that? How would I do that? This is layer 6. How would I hide this layer? Unclick, yep, just click right on top of that eyeball. Good. And then number 7, delete layer 9, yep. So click on, how do I delete that layer? Select it and then what? Delete, it's a little trash can, drag it to the trash, yep, click delete, there you go. That's the first part, pretty easy, right? So you will save that before you submit it. So go File, Save. That's the first file that you're going to submit for part 1. Any questions about that? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the one that I chose. Okay, it could be one of the 5. All right, so now let's start over. We saved that, we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and open up, let me go back in here and open up another one from the list. I'm going to do the second one for this one. This is another option. And do adjustments for file 2. So I'm going to open the file. I'm going to name it like this. I can usually just copy and paste it in here. File 2. Just make sure it's file 2 so I know which file it is. Save it as a Photoshop file. See, that's the difference. I need to see that it's file 1 and file 2 so that I can grade it appropriately. So make sure that that's what your file name is. Okay, number 3, apply hue and saturation adjustment layer, thank you, to layer 8 only. Increase the saturation to positive 50, and then you have to put a clipping mask on it. Layer 8. Go to layer, new layer adjustment, hue and saturation. Now, what does it say, 50? Increase the positive 50, saturation. So again, saturation, let's go. All you need to do is type in 50. You don't even have to put plus, you just do 50. Look what it does. But we want it to just be applied to this layer. So again, we're just gonna do a clipping mask right after that. So that's just changing his little jacket there to it's more vibrant, so it's just kind of cool. Okay, and then you're going to move 7 so it is on top of layer 5. Again, just select layer 7, drag it on top of 5, in between 4 and 5, and let go of your selection. And that was this, so that's kind of there. Then you're going to move layer 1 from the left side of the image to the right. Select that layer first. There we go. Move it to the right. turn the visibility off on layer 9. So that's the bottom part here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Just turn that off. And then delete layer 4 is the last step. So layer 4, we're just going to delete. Which one was that little line work there? Let's delete that one again. All right, and then just go File, Save, and this is the second PSD that you need to upload for part 2. Just like I said, make sure that you're naming it appropriately. So when I go in and I open up your files, I can say, okay, you know, you did this correctly. I can see all of your layers. It's file 1, file 2. You're going to create a new folder, and you're going to name it your first and last name _ assessment 3. And you're going to put both of those PSD files into that folder, and then you're going to compress your folder, and you're going to upload it for the assessment. So let me show you how to do that. Hide, hide. We saved it all on my desktop here. I got this one, and I got this one. So we're going to make a new folder. We're going to go File, New Folder. And DGD, did it say DGD? Let me see. See, sometimes I need to do a look here. No, first and last name, assessment 3. Okay. So just your first, last name, assessment 3. Let me hide this so you guys can see a little better. And then just go ahead and select these, dump them in here. And do you guys know how to compress this so it's a zip folder? Can anybody tell me how to do that? File compress, good. Yep. And there is your zip file. This is what you would submit for your assessment. Any questions about that? That's pretty easy, don't you think? Be fun to kind of play around with the different layers, and yeah, pretty cool. All right, so that is the assessment part 1, working with the layers. You're going to adjust your adjustment layers. Some really cool things with that. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to go forward with your discussions if you guys don't have any questions with anything. And then what we'll do is we'll go over your, just kind of a little highlight of what will be on the lecture quiz. I know we had some issues with that in the past, so I'll kind of point out some things to make sure you are privy to when you're taking the lecture quiz. Okay? All right, I'll meet you guys back here in about 5 minutes, and then we'll go with your discussion here. Okay, can you guys hear me? Awesome. All right, let's get started here. So, yeah, we did things a little differently today. So we did your assignment demos first, just so that we didn't run out of time. So now we're going to focus on your discussions. So the first discussion for week 3 is basically talking about networking and the benefits of networking. So it's all about building connections and building relationships. Professional networking is a critical component to a successful career as a designer. So let's talk about the benefits. I mean, this is pretty, common sense, right? So finding people relevant in your career, that's a benefit, because that way you can, if somebody who you may know knows somebody who has a job opening somewhere, that's how it can be a benefit. Um, a friend of a friend. That's always a great way to start. Having access to knowledge beyond your experience um, is also a benefit. Being the first person someone thinks about is a great benefit. So having that foot in the door, the lasting impression is very important. Gaining access to help on a personal level and referrals to customers and job openings. You might meet somebody that you may not think may lead to an opportunity. So always kind of keep that in mind when you're talking to anyone. It's kind of strange how it happens. Networking is one of the key things to finding, opportunities. I believe it's who you know. So and I think it's hard. I think it's one thing. Networking is scary for some people, right? And some people get anxiety over that. I understand that. We're communicators. We're visual communicators, so it may not be the first. One of the first things that we are good at as designers is actually communicating in a verbal way to somebody. I think we show it more visually. So that's one of the things that we need to work on sometimes. We can show a very beautiful concept, but can we communicate our thought process behind it? Can we communicate to get our work out there? Can we, network and become, good at what we do and what we say and how we communicate our thoughts and present ourselves? That's one of the things that we also have to work on as designers always. So where to start? Join a blog and participate. A lot of you guys are doing that. And that's great. Facebook has a lot of really cool groups on there. You can do your own personal blog. I actually started a blog when I was a graduate at Savannah College of Art and Design. And I was able to get out a lot of my thoughts about certain projects that I was working on, what I learned during that time. This may be something that you might want to add to your process as a college student here. Just adding in where your thought process came in, what you learned, what you thought you could have learned more about, just getting it out, almost like a diary. Attend local design events in your area. There's meetup apps on your phone. I created, when I had a motorcycle and I lived in Florida, yes, I had my motorcycle license, I created my own group so that we can all interact as people who ride and can meet up and do certain things like that. Why can't you do that in graphic design? I actually did that as a designer too in Tampa. We had designer meetups. So that's, yeah. So, there's so many things available to your fingertips. Why not get into that so that you are networking with people around you in your network, in your circle? You're learning what's out there, learning what's new, meeting people. That's a great way to start. Attend conferences. Could be tricky because some of them you have to pay for them. But if you know somebody, they could probably get you in. So that's kind of a cool thing. If you belong to AIGA, they have conferences too. Attend trade fairs, out there. It could be even print related. It could be print vendors or paper. There's all kinds of different trade fairs. There can be design ones as well. I just went to a tattoo expo. So there's all kinds of really cool fairs out there that could be related to design as well. Join LinkedIn. How many of you are already a member? Yay. Join it, join it, join it. A lot of employers, that's the way that they kind of scan you to see your experience. They kind of look at your profile. So kind of be careful what you put on there. Make sure it's professional. Good. Create your professional Facebook page. You know, you really want to make sure that you're separating this out from your personal Facebook page. If you have a personal one, you want to set your own professional one. You're not, you know, posting on there emotionally. Because there's a lot of stuff that can be, you know, looked at and looked down upon in terms of that, but possibly. But you want to make it professional, you know, post professional, objective things, and you know, attract professionals as well. Join a professional organization. You know, it doesn't have to be design related. It could be something else that could lead into design opportunities. Join in student groups, especially here at IU. Yep. Yeah, there's all kinds of drama stuff that could be out there if you don't separate your personal from your private on Facebook. Student groups, you know, we have Coffee for Creatives, we have student GAC, we have student groups here that you can also join as well. So that's kind of where to start to, you know, start getting out there and learning from others too, being inspired by others. But, you know, networking can be very scary, but I think once you start, you'll kind of see that it's not so bad. I think especially with people who have anxieties. And that's something that we have to work on. So let's go forward here into your discussion. There are some reasons why you would build a professional network. And one of these is to find jobs. You know, obviously that's the key, right? You want to find a job. You also want to gain experience. And you want to make connections. So those are the three reasons that you would build a professional network for this, you know, for this reason. So just kind of keep this in mind. My dog's going to start barking here. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. See, I told you he'd want to start talking. All right, so how do you plan on networking when you're in school and once you graduate? Think about that. Networking starts now. You guys can network right now with each other. I know a lot of students that get each other's contact information and or on Facebook, and they stay in touch. That's awesome. I actually didn't realize how important this was until I graduated from SCAD. I still talk to some of my professors, my old professors, and we have both given each other opportunities, you know, in both ways. So you just never know. You just never know in the future what knowing alumni and keeping in touch with them will do for you. So it's kind of, it's interesting. Here we have a little quote here. Time management, let's talk about time management, is the way to decide to utilize our time in order to maximize our productivity and achieving certain long-term goals. So in doing so, I'm going to switch topics here. Being successful at managing your time. You guys are all doing this hopefully now with being a student. You really want to focus in on, and this is, you're going to have, both of your discussions are talking about networking and time management. This is kind of the two topics. So think about what you do to be successful with managing your time. This might be something that you're currently doing, hopefully. Figure out where you spend your time, determine what needs to be completed, decide how long each task should be, plan your week and every week. How do you guys do that? Do you guys have a system now? Do you use a calendar? Yes. So think about that. And think about ways that you can help yourself ease the burden. It's okay to say no to friends and family if you need that extra time. Yes, schedule. So it's all about time management. I think this discussion one though, let me share my, let's go back because I think I'm switching my topics here. Let's go back to networking and then we'll get into your time management. So in your first discussion, we're going to be talking about building a professional network. I kind of had those confused on my slides here. Go ahead and read through the background, talking about when you're a design student, you know, kind of keeping in touch with everybody. There's a networking tips 7-minute video here you can check out. And things that we kind of talked about, meeting up locally, social networks, even join an IU design student group. In the prompt, so in this discussion, imagine that you're attending a local AIGA student event. Over coffee, another student begins talking to you. They tell you that they are not confident about or promoting themselves. When someone asks them what they do, they say their life is boring and they get out of the conversation. They know that this isn't good. They also know that they should get better at networking. However, they are nervous and do not know how to begin or why it is worth it. Describe how you feel about self-promotion and the ability to manage your time when networking. Are there specific formats of networking that are worth more in a shorter amount of time? Explain your answer. For your reply to other students, come up with an alternative networking methods that you that you think may be effective or a more effective way of performing the format that your peers suggested. Don't forget, some of you guys are forgetting your citation, you know, add in a citation and then that supports your perspective so that, you know, you have a more well-rounded post. Don't forget to also follow the requirements for your post and your response post here so that you're gaining the most out of the discussion. Okay, so in talking about that, let me switch my screen here. Think about all of the things that you would say to this person. Describe how you feel about self-promotion in your post and the ability to manage your time when networking. Okay, and I posted my first response in there if you have questions about that. Hopefully that'll help you get started. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Or you guys okay? No questions? Okay. All right. So on to the second discussion. We're just moving right along here. Hold on, let me click that so we can look at it. And again, I kind of help, and also Shannon, the learning instructor, posts in there so that you guys hopefully have a good understanding of, you know, different things that you can discuss for each discussion here. Here we go. Okay, so this one's going to be more about time management, like we were talking about. So go ahead and read through the background here. It says every designer has the same 24 hours each day, yet some seem to accomplish far more than others. Personality type, level of experience, and skill proficiency can certainly affect productivity. But one thing that can help every designer accomplish as much as possible is this: good time management skills. Although there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to time management, the following tips reflect the practices of many designers who effectively manage their time. So it's just kind of cool. It kind of develops a little infographic here of 6 steps of how time management can be spent. So go ahead and read through that. Develop a system, schedule your time, reduce distractions, break large tasks into manageable pieces, track your time, and reward yourself for completing tasks. I know this is something that I get this is how I am. And I know some of you guys are like this too, because I've spoken to a lot of students who get overwhelmed. I am kind of a slight perfectionist to the point where sometimes it gets in the way of me actually getting things done. And I'm learning from this, and this is something that I have, and you probably maybe have struggled with too. Um, yes. And I think one of the downfalls of being that type of person is if you don't get what you think done right away, you get overwhelmed and then you don't do it. Yes. Right? So I think the key for me and what works for me might not work for you, but for me, breaking things down a little smaller and smaller steps and goals is what works for me, because I think it allows me to focus and then complete a task as well as I can and go on to the next, so that I feel confident and good that that's done. Okay, on to the next. Instead of thinking, oh my God, I have all this stuff to do and I got to do it. And then I just push it off because I'm like, I can't do it the right way. And then, it just becomes overwhelming in my mind. So I like to, and this is something that I just do because I know it works for me, just kind of say, okay, this is what I'm going to finish today. I look at my present today. What do I want to get done? And I have a lot going on, you guys. Not only am I teaching, so I'm teaching 3 classes this term, but I'm also an FPA. So I have a population of a lot of students that I have to track and get back to and look at portfolios and at-risk students and do all kinds of stuff. So I am constantly trying to get things done. But I just know that I can't get everything done in my mind, all like for one day. I have to do chunks of time, and I always say I work in the cracks of time because I do have a 6-year-old too, so I'm homeschooling. Oh, thank you. I mean, there's days I'm like, I didn't get anything done that I wanted to get done. That's okay. The next day I kind of refocus on okay, let me get this done. And sometimes I'm up at 2 a.m. and it's just what works for me. So I think just giving yourself that day-to-day, step-by-step approach of doing smaller goals may help those that are like me to accomplish the bigger goal. Yes. So don't let it kind of consume you, just one thing at a time. Breathe. And then reward yourself. Once you go, okay, maybe you didn't get all the things that you wanted to get done, but you got 2 of the 3 things that you wanted to get done. Reward yourself. Get rest, go at it the next day. Don't let it take you down. Positive, positive, positive. Okay. And it happens to the best of us. We're all human. So for this discussion, imagine that you met a student while attending design club. She tells you she is having trouble meeting school project deadlines and wants to know if you have any secrets about how you complete projects on time. Consider some time management skills that have helped you with your job and school, and think about the methods you've developed and maintained to help you achieve your goals in an efficient manner. What do you consider to be a time management strategy that every student should follow, and what is the best way to develop that skill? Be creative with this. And maybe there's something like, okay, I take a shower in the morning to clear my head, and I come out, I walk my dog, and I come in, I get this done, and then I go and do this. And I do, maybe you have a really cool way of doing things that you want to kind of share with us, and that helps your time management, just it benefits that. Okay. So explain that. Everybody does things differently. So, let us know what you do and what works for you. That way, if another student is having trouble trying to maintain their time management, they might see your idea and say, hey, I want to try that. Or if you want to suggest something to somebody who's doing something, you can respond to them and suggest what you think. Okay. All right. Just make sure you're not just saying, oh, I like your ideas, that's great. Make sure you're, maybe asking your fellow students questions, digging in a little bit deeper into what they posted as a response. Also, don't forget your citation. You might want to add you know, say this, you say, I like to get up in the morning and take a shower, and it makes me alert and focused. I have coffee and I'm ready to go. Maybe you have a little citation in there about how that actually helps work productivity. There's actual factual evidence that you want to use to support how that helps. That could be a citation for that. So just kind of giving you some ideas of what you can add in there to make your post more substantial. Any questions about that? Have fun with that. Good to go. All right, there's a couple things. I went over a couple things for the live lecture quiz already, but I'm going to, because we had some issues with that before, and some people were like, you know, why don't we go over this so that we're not wondering what's on it. Okay, so one of the things that I want you guys to think about for your live lecture quiz, I'm going to go over these kind of ambiguously a little bit, are what are the 3 reasons that I just stated just recently that you would build a professional network? Like, what are the 3 gains that you get from it? We talked about, and I just stated. So I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to actually say the answer. Okay, I also talked about how networking can be what? Exciting. Everybody remember what I was talking about? It could be what? Well, it can be, but I talked about the initial feeling as, you know, when you go up to somebody and you introduce yourself, do you feel confident, or do you usually feel what? Scared, right? Scary. Can be scary. But, you know, once you are into it, it'll start feeling a little bit better. So it can be scary. All right, the next 2 things we didn't go over yet, so I'm going to go ahead and open Photoshop here because they are based on Photoshop, and this is for the quiz, by the way. Can you guys see my screen here? Let's see if I can share my Photoshop screen. Anxiety, yep. All right, so I actually have, let me go to the home screen here. All right, so when you first open Photoshop, which I kind of canceled out of this screen, when you first open up Photoshop, what I love about it, and I'm not seeing it here, so unfortunately I'd have to close out, and I'm not going to do that. But what I love about when you first open Photoshop, what you first see on your home screen is an inspirational saying. So that's pretty cool. But right now I'm kind of beyond that, and I don't want to quit out of here, so I'm just showing you right now. So there's an inspirational saying, which is kind of cool, that pops up. Now, when you have your actual Photoshop open, if you want to, you know, the best way to actually access tutorials, say you want to actually like look at how-to videos and different projects, the best way to access that, and I didn't show this in the lecture previously, but is if you go to the Learn option, and I think it's under here, you can go to Learn if it's not on your artboard. Right here, you would access it through your tutorials through the Learning, clicking on the Learn option. So you can actually click on projects. You can, here's tips. You can fix a photo. You can read more about that. Just little tutorials that can help help you, which is great. You know, this is definitely something new, which is awesome. So definitely check that out. All right, I think that's basically it for the quiz here. Does anybody have any questions for me? No questions. All right, you guys, if you're working on this and you're having issues with Photoshop, you know, contact me or Shannon. We are here to help you guys go, you know, we want you guys to succeed and understand the foundation of all of these tools and software. So don't feel like you're bothering us in any way. We're gonna try to help you as much as possible. All right, guys, so we're gonna wrap it up. We have about 5 more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions, anything that concerns? Seems like everybody's good. All right, if not, we're gonna just wrap it up. You guys have a great day. I'm gonna post this lecture to announcements too, as well as your live session once it's processed. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy, and hopefully we'll get some more warmer weather here. I know I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys on discussions. Have a good day.